Hey Otters, welcome to this special extended version of my tutorial teaching you how to juggle the box and the extended box. Before I jump into it, I want to take a second and thank everyone who is a member of my Otter Club on Patreon. It's because of people like you that I can make these free tutorials for everyone else, and I really appreciate it. Let's get learning the box. The box is a pretty advanced 3-ball trick, so before you try to learn it, I recommend that you have a pretty good handle on other 3-ball tricks like Mill's Mess, Windmill, 1-up, 2-up, those types of tricks. But the biggest prerequisite for learning the box is that you know how to do the shower. I have a tutorial on this. If you haven't already learned it, go watch that first, and then you can come back and try to learn the box. So what exactly is happening in the box? It's basically that same straight across throw that you learned when you were doing the shower, but now we're just gonna be doing it back and forth as we throw the other balls straight up and down. I know that's easier said than done, so let's break it down. So as I said, you should already be comfortable with this straight across throw because you worked on it in the shower pattern. On top of that, I want you to start thinking about how you're doing this throw. In my opinion, a big part of learning how to do tricks with these throws like this is learning how to not stop the momentum. What people tend to do when they try to learn these tricks is try to just kind of push the ball really quickly from hand to hand, as opposed to treating it like a throw. When we throw a ball up, we have to bring our hand down to get that momentum and leverage to throw the ball up. It's a similar concept when we throw the ball across. We want to use that negative space on the outside of our shoulder to get momentum to throw that ball across to the other hand. This is going to be a little more relevant when we start using 2 balls, but for now I want you to keep that idea in mind when you practice with 1 ball. Throw the ball across, and when you do, don't stop that momentum. Bring it back and throw it back. Get super comfortable with this. You should be able to do it without thinking, without stopping, and it should feel pretty fluid and smooth. This is the foundation of the box. So once you feel comfortable with 1 ball, pick up another one. All right, this is where it gets fun. We're gonna juggle. So from here, it should be kind of obvious what we're gonna try to do. We're gonna throw that same ball across, keeping in mind that negative space, that wind up, and that same momentum that we were doing with 1 ball. And at the same time, we're gonna throw this other hand straight up, creating almost an L shape. It's half of a box, it's an L. Then as that ball's coming down, we're gonna launch that bottom ball straight across again. Now, when you do this, I want you to keep a few things in mind. I want you to make sure that straight up ball is a fairly good height, maybe a little bit above your head, just for now. Eventually you can bring the pattern down, but to give yourself time right now, make it a little bit higher than you would probably want to make it. And I want you to remember that momentum that we were talking about with the 1 ball exercise, and let your hand continue past the edge of your box. You'll notice when I do that, my hand is coming out and then flicking back. That's how you get the momentum of the box. Otherwise, you're gonna end up having to kind of push the ball with very little momentum, and it's gonna be really hard to maintain when you have 3 objects. So remember that wind up, boom. The other thing I want you to avoid when you do this is bringing your hands too close together. Again, because we have that momentum and that wind up, we don't have to rely on our hands being super close together. It shouldn't be this. This is not the box. I mean, I guess technically it is, but it doesn't look good. We want to keep our hands shoulder width apart and use that momentum to carry that ball over that distance. The other thing I want you to keep in mind with this exercise, I want you to wait as long as possible for that ball to come down before you launch that bottom ball back across. So don't do it really fast like this. That is not a box, it's not synchronous. They should be happening at the same time. So you want to wait, boom. When you're catching this hand, you should be catching this hand. So wait as long as possible for that ball to come down before you throw that ball out. But that entire time that that ball is in the air, you should be bringing your hand out, getting ready to throw it, and then waiting till the last second so that you can launch it right when you need to. I really encourage you to listen to the catches. When you do that final catch, they should be happening at the same time. If you're hearing them syncopated, like, that means your timing is off. You really want to get the timing right and make sure it's synchronous. So listen for the difference. Versus, that's what you want to aim for, that simultaneous catch. Now that I've taught you how to do that on one side, you need to practice it on the other side as well, because the box is a symmetrical trick. So we do one side, and then you can do the exact same thing on the other side. So just work on this exercise until you have it solid. It is very important that this feel comfortable for you. Otherwise, it's gonna be impossible for you to put a third ball in there and make it sustainable. Once you feel good with that, pick up a third ball. From here, this is where things get a little more complicated, but honestly, it's pretty much the same as what we just did with 2 balls. So we're gonna start with that same exercise where we throw one up and across at the same time. The way I like to do this is starting with a crossing throw with the hand that has 2 balls and a straight up throw with the hand that has 1, so like that. And then what we're gonna do is as we're throwing this ball straight across, it's gonna be just like what we did on the other side, like that. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 1, 2. Once you can do that, that's pretty much the box, and you're just gonna repeat back and forth. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's it. If you can do that, you can officially do the box. But I know that there are a lot of things that can go wrong with that, so let's take a look at some of the common problems you might be experiencing. All right, I already touched on a lot of these, but just to reiterate a few of them. When you're practicing this trick, I want you to make sure that you're throwing those upward balls high enough so that you have enough time to complete that bottom throw back and forth. If you throw it too low, first of all, your timing is gonna get off a little bit, and you're just gonna have a harder time getting the momentum to throw that bottom throw. I've talked about it a few times. I really want you to remember to get that momentum to throw that ball across. When you do that, it gives you more momentum, it gives you more control, and it makes it possible for you to make a pattern that is wide enough to be the box. You can absolutely do this trick without that added momentum that I talk about, but it's gonna end up being really quick and fast and hard to maintain because you're not really throwing, you're kind of popping the ball back and forth. Try to get in the habit of extending your hand past the edges of your box, those balls going up, to get momentum to launch it back across. And doing that is also going to make learning tricks like the upside down box a lot easier. One of the most common problems that you might have, and that I honestly still have occasionally, is that when you throw the ball across, you might completely miss it. And honestly, that is gonna happen occasionally with this trick, just because that throw underneath is kind of risky. But if you find yourself having that happen a lot when you're learning, I highly encourage you to break it down with 2 again and practice that bottom throw, emphasizing having your arms shoulder width apart so that you're not relying on this tiny little pop, which is what I see people do a lot. You need to learn how to get comfortable throwing that ball and not just handing it from hand to hand. The more you practice this with 2 balls, the less likely it is gonna happen that you'll miss that ball when you try to do it with 3. The other thing you might be doing, which I touched on briefly before, is not throwing the balls synchronous like that. Those catches should all be happening at the same time. I think the best way to force yourself into that synchronous throw rhythm is to wait as long as possible while those balls are coming down before you throw the next set. Wait as long as possible. The box is a really slow feeling pattern, honestly. It is not as fast as people think it is. And when you try to make it faster, that's when you usually start sacrificing on form and rhythm. So really try to keep it synchronous and try to wait as long as possible and make it a nice slow pattern. All right, Otters, this part is just for you. It's the extended part of the box tutorial where we teach you the extended box. It's great. Before you try to learn this trick, I want to emphasize that this is a variation of the box, so you need to make sure that you can do the original box first. So if you just learned that, take some time and get it solid, and then come back and we can work on the extended version later, or now, depending on when you're watching it. I don't know. Let's take a look at what's happening in the extended box. The extended box is really similar to the box, where it still consists of those upward throws and that bottom throw across. But now what's happening is instead of every throw alternating left and right, we're gonna do 2 throws left and 2 throws right. The way I want you to think about the extended box is almost like a W. We're gonna have 1 straight up ball here, 1 straight up ball in the middle, and 1 straight up ball on the outside. If you already know the box, I think you'll probably be able to learn this trick fairly quickly because it's not that much harder. But let's break it down step by step. We're gonna start with that first box throw that we normally do when we start the box, and that's gonna be our middle column. So you can maybe start a little bit to the side. This time when that ball is coming down, instead of throwing that ball straight across, that's gonna become our next column, and we're gonna continue throwing a ball across. 1, 2. This should feel really similar to doing a shower, because it is. It's basically 2 shower throws, 1, 2. But instead of curving them in like in the shower and keeping them in the same spot, we're going to make them columns. So we're here, 1, 2. Now we're gonna reverse it and go the other way. As that ball is coming down, 1, 2. I recommend breaking it in half. So we'll go 1, 2, stop, then you'll do it the other way. 1, 2, stop, 1, 2, stop. Remember to emphasize those straight up throws, and remember that it should feel like a shower. From there, it's just a matter of combining those two sides and keeping that momentum going. So we'll go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's the extended box. The thing that really helped me when I was learning this was remembering that it's 2 throws left and then 2 throws right. So left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right. And just like when we were learning the box, I recommend that you make those throws a little bit higher so that you have time to even process and complete the throws that you're trying to make. If you try to make this too small, you can do it, but it's just gonna feel a little more chaotic. I'm teaching you this trick in a way that makes that trick look more like a W, but you can also emphasize that middle throw to look like a shower throw. So if you want to change it up and do that trick in a little aesthetic way, you can do that. That first box throw you make will curve in instead of going straight up. And then you'll continue with a straight up box throw as the second one. 1, 2, 1, 2. There you have it. That's the extended box. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks so much for being Otters. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great time learning the box and the extended box. But as that ball is now coming down, we're gonna launch that, and then you can just do the exact same thing on the other side.